In this episode, we look at the challenge of hiring a new business director internally at your agency, and we're going to give you 3 takeaways around what to look for specifically and what to ask that candidate as you're interviewing. Hey, welcome to 3 Takeaways, your agency new business video series where we focus on one new business category and we give you 3 takeaways to help improve your new business program. Now, an ongoing new business challenge for agencies. Who drives new business? Is it the principals, a new business hire, maybe an outsourced firm? Okay, well, agencies tend to go the hiring route. Now, in my own self-serving way, I will point out that new business directors at agencies still last on average about 18 months. Now, why is that though? I mean, one reason, the hiring process and the questions asked during it, or rather, the questions that aren't asked. Now, as you're interviewing for a new business role, be especially careful of candidates whose predominant sales experience lies in outside sales. Now, I'm not suggesting they're never a viable candidate, not at all. But if their main method of prospecting has been networking events, local happy hours, face-to-face selling, you need to dig deeper and ask questions around their inside sales experience. Especially now, with many businesses still working from home, but even setting that aside for a moment, if you plan to grow your agency outside your region, and that's the plan for a lot of agencies, for a lot of you watching. So with travel restricted, you need to have confidence in that individual that they don't need to be face-to-face in a room, for example, to get that first meeting and to get through that door. Now, sure, there's Zoom, there's other platforms, like it that allow you to have those face-to-face meetings, but your new business director has to be able to break through effectively, and you're not doing that part of the process via Zoom. All right, so your first takeaway then is this. Ask about their past resources. And when you're interviewing, what I mean is, ask questions around what materials they've used to prospect in previous positions. Did they have a marketing team or person that created materials for them to use, or any type of thought leadership content that was created that they were able to use as well? And what did they actually do with it? Or did they have to create those materials on their own? These questions are really important, especially if they don't come from an agency new business background, that particular candidate. Now, quite frankly, the ideal is that both instances have occurred in their career, more than once, quite frankly, as I said, and they were successful in both those types of situations. So that then leads to your second takeaway. Ask what they've done when they didn't have any resources. And that's important, and it's a question we ask potential candidates when we're hiring a new business director for RSW. Even if an agency starts a new business effort with multiple case studies, a solid 1-pager, some thought leadership, there will be a moment in time when that new business director has used all those materials quite a bit. Now, a really good agency new business director still finds a way. Now, to use a very trite cliche, that is where the rubber very much meets the proverbial road. That's not to say that situation can continue forever. I mean, they will need support in the form of new materials, and you should plan for that every 4 to 6 months, give or take. But if you ask a potential candidate as you're interviewing how they broke through initially to a prospect, give us an example when they had little to no resources and their answer or their solution involved doing something in person. You got to be careful. You got to dig deeper. So, for example, I've heard answers in interviews like, well, I knew they were going to be at this conference, or I asked them out for coffee. That type of activity will, of course, return in time. It's not that it's never going to be effective again, but even when it does return, is that essentially the predominant go-to solution for that person you're interviewing? Because there has to be more, and that will fall into the inside sales bucket. So when you ask what they've done when they didn't have resources to sell against, the answer should boil down to this, and it's your third and final takeaway. Google is your friend. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen or heard of new business directors at agencies failing because they get to that point and they couldn't deliver, or they didn't know what to do because they said they didn't have anything. New business is never easy, but it's certainly easier when you're flush with new case studies and content. It's when you have very little that really great salespeople get resourceful and they thrive. And they do so because there will always, that's all in capitals there will always be some piece of third-party content around your verticals or services that you can use, always. You know, a great new business director takes that non-competitive piece of content and shapes it into a concise piece of prospecting content that immediately shows we are experts in this space. We know your industry, and we can potentially help you. So, if you're considering hiring internally for a new business role, you need to think about including these types of questions. Okay? Well, thanks as always for watching 3 Takeaways. Lots of new business content on our resources page at the URL below. We're here to help you drive new business if you need it. So go onto our site there at RSWUS.com if you're interested. Thanks. See you next time.